Have you ever found yourself standing in a room full of accomplished people, brilliant minds, confident voices, polished smiles, and suddenly felt like you were the only one who didn't belong there? You nod, you contribute, you even lead, but deep inside there's a quiet fear whispering, "What if they find out I'm not as capable as they think?" You smile through it, you perform, you deliver results, yet somewhere between your achievements and your reflection in the mirror, there's a gap you can't quite bridge. That's the silent struggle so many leaders face but rarely admit, the feeling of being an imposter in your own success story. It's strange, isn't it? You've climbed the ladder, built the team, led through storms, and turned uncertainty into opportunity. People see your success, your confidence, your vision, but they don't see the sleepless nights, the second guessing, the moments before every big decision when you question whether you're truly qualified to make it. You tell yourself to be grateful, to focus, to move forward, and yet, deep down, there's a lingering thought, what if I'm just lucky? What if this is all a fluke? This quiet battle often begins in the most unexpected places. Maybe after a big promotion, when suddenly the expectations rise faster than your self-belief. Maybe when you walk on stage to speak, and a small voice inside whispers, "Who am I to be giving advice?" Or maybe it's when you look around and compare yourself to others, their confidence, their eloquence, their effortless success, and wonder if they ever feel the same way. Spoiler, they do. Even the most accomplished leaders, the ones you admire, the ones you think have it all figured out, they too have stood in that same space of uncertainty. But most of them never talk about it because leadership often comes with an unspoken pressure to always appear strong, decisive, in control, to never let doubt show, to always have the answers. And so, instead of confronting that feeling, most leaders bury it under layers of productivity, perfectionism, or performance. They tell themselves they just need to work harder, achieve more, prove themselves again and again, until the doubt finally disappears. But it doesn't. It grows quietly in the background, feeding on silence and comparison. You start to believe that your success is fragile, that one wrong move could expose you. You over-prepare for every meeting, overthink every word, overanalyze every decision, not because you lack skill or intelligence, but because you've built a habit of doubting your own reflection. You've mistaken humility for insecurity and self-awareness for inadequacy. And yet, the irony is this: the very fact that you question yourself, that you care this deeply, that you hold yourself to such high standards, it's not proof that you're an imposter. It's proof that you're invested, that you're still growing, that you understand leadership isn't about perfection, but about responsibility. The leaders who feel imposter syndrome the most are often the ones who lead with the most integrity because they're aware of the weight of what they do. They care enough to question, and they question because they care. So if you've ever felt that tension between who you are and who you think you're supposed to be, you're not broken. You're just human. You're standing in that beautiful, uncomfortable space where growth and doubt coexist, where real leadership begins. Imposter syndrome is one of those invisible weights that leaders carry quietly. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't show up in your calendar, and yet it's there, shadowing your every move. It's that internal tug of war between your achievements and your self-belief. You can have a list of accomplishments that impress anyone, and still, when you're alone, doubt whether you truly earned any of it. It's not arrogance that you lack, it's certainty. And that uncertainty comes from something deeply human, the fear of being seen, not for your success, but for your perceived shortcomings. The truth is, imposter syndrome isn't a flaw. It's a byproduct of growth. It's what happens when your vision of who you want to be outpaces your current self-image. It's that moment when your responsibilities stretch beyond what you've done before, and you haven't yet rewritten your inner story to match your new reality. You're evolving, but your mind is still catching up. The discomfort you feel isn't failure, it's expansion. It's a sign that you're in motion, that you're operating on the edge of what's familiar, and that's exactly where great leaders live. What makes this struggle so profound is that it often hides beneath the surface of high performance. The world sees your results, the team you built, the clients you won, the milestones you hit, but it doesn't see the internal dialogue that follows each success. You finish a project and immediately think of what could have gone better. You receive praise and instinctively deflect it. You achieve something big, and instead of celebrating, you start planning the next thing, not out of ambition, but out of fear that stopping might expose your imperfections. It's a constant chase for validation that never quite feels like enough. This mindset often begins early. Many high achievers grow up believing that worth comes from performance, from doing, producing, achieving. And so when they step into leadership, that conditioning follows them. The higher they rise, the more they feel they have to prove. They measure their value not by authenticity or impact, but by external approval. And yet no title, award, or recognition can fill that internal void. Because imposter syndrome isn't solved by accomplishment, it's healed by awareness. The real breakthrough happens when you begin to see self-doubt not as a weakness, but as feedback. When you realize that your insecurity isn't a sign that you don't belong, but a reminder that you care about doing something meaningful. It's the echo of your standards pushing you to grow, not evidence of inadequacy. The leaders who admit their doubts, the ones who say, "I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn," are often the ones who earn the deepest respect. Why? Because authenticity builds trust, and trust builds leadership that lasts. Imposter syndrome loses its grip when you stop fighting it and start understanding it. When you realize that the voice that says you're not enough is just fear wearing the mask of reason. It's not trying to destroy you. It's trying to protect you from exposure, from risk, from the discomfort of growth. But real leadership requires stepping into that discomfort and saying, "I hear you, but I'm leading anyway." Because at its core, this inner struggle isn't a battle to be won. It's a relationship to be understood. You don't silence the doubt by pretending it's not there. You transcend it by knowing it for what it is. A signal that you're standing on the edge of becoming someone greater than you were yesterday. A few years ago, I worked with a leader whose story perfectly captured what imposter syndrome looks like at the highest levels of success. She was a self-made entrepreneur, someone who had started her company in her small apartment with nothing but a laptop, a vision, and a determination that wouldn't quit. For years, she built her dream from the ground up. She hired her first employees, landed her first clients, survived countless rejections, and fought through moments when the entire business nearly collapsed. And then, one day, everything changed. Her company took off. Investors came calling. She was featured in magazines, invited to speak at conferences, even asked to mentor other entrepreneurs. To the outside world, she was the definition of success. But behind that success was a quiet, exhausting battle that no one could see. One afternoon, during a leadership session, she said something that stopped me. She looked up and said, "I feel like I'm living someone else's life. People treat me like I'm this visionary, this expert, but half the time, I don't even know what I'm doing. I feel like I've fooled everyone." That moment of honesty revealed a truth that so many leaders carry. The more they achieve, the more afraid they become of being found out. She wasn't struggling because she lacked skill or competence. She was struggling because her identity hadn't caught up with her success. Her internal belief system was still wired for survival, not recognition. She told me that when she walked onto a stage to speak, she could feel her heart race, not because she was nervous about public speaking, but because she was terrified someone in the audience would stand up and say, "She doesn't deserve to be here." That fear lived with her, quietly, constantly, through every success. No matter how many awards she received, no matter how many deals she closed, she still measured her worth by comparison. Every time she met another successful entrepreneur, she focused not on what they had in common, but on all the ways she thought she fell short. And this is what imposter syndrome often does. It distorts your perception. It takes your accomplishments and makes them look smaller. It takes your challenges and makes them look like proof that you're inadequate. You could have 100 pieces of evidence showing your competence, and yet your mind will fixate on the one small thing you think you got wrong. It's not rational. It's emotional. It's the part of you that still believes you need to earn your place in every room, even after you've already earned it. As we talked, I asked her to tell me about a time when she had made a difficult decision that turned out well. She told me about a deal she'd walked away from, a lucrative offer that could have brought in millions, but would have forced her to compromise her company's values. Everyone around her thought she was crazy for rejecting it, but she held firm. Months later, that same investor's firm faced public backlash for unethical practices. Her decision saved her company's reputation and became a defining moment in her leadership journey. I listened and then asked, "Do you think that was luck?" She paused. "No," she said softly. "That was intuition, experience, conviction," and then almost whispering, "But it still feels like luck." That's the paradox. Even when leaders make wise, principled, courageous decisions, imposter syndrome has a way of rewriting the story. It tells you it was coincidence. It tells you someone else would have done it better. It tells you that your success is fragile, that if people really knew how often you doubt yourself, they'd stop believing in you. But the truth is, the very doubts she carried were part of what made her an exceptional leader. She questioned herself not because she was weak, but because she cared deeply about doing what was right. She held herself to high standards, and that humility made her a better decision maker, a better mentor, a better human being. She didn't see it that way, of course. To her, doubt felt like a flaw. To everyone around her, it was wisdom in disguise. Over the next few months, she began to confront the way she talked to herself. She started documenting her wins, not for ego, but for evidence. Every time she closed a deal, every time a team member thanked her for her leadership, every time she turned uncertainty into progress, she wrote it down. Slowly, she began to see a pattern. The person she thought was lucky was, in fact, consistent, thoughtful, strategic, resilient. Her success wasn't an accident. It was the product of 1,000 intentional decisions made even in moments of doubt. There was one particularly powerful moment I'll never forget. She was preparing to speak at a major leadership summit in front of hundreds of executives. A few minutes before stepping on stage, she looked anxious, almost pale. She said, "Every time before I speak, that voice shows up again. It tells me, 'You don't belong here.'" I told her, "That voice is just fear reminding you that you're about to do something meaningful. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't feel it." She smiled faintly, took a deep breath, and walked on stage. And what she did next was remarkable. Instead of delivering a flawless, overly rehearsed keynote, she began her talk with raw honesty. She said, "Before coming on this stage, I felt like I didn't belong here. And I know some of you might feel the same, like you're surrounded by people smarter, more experienced, more confident than you. But maybe the fact that we care enough to doubt ourselves means we're exactly where we're supposed to be." The audience went silent, then erupted in applause. In that moment, she didn't just share her story, she freed others from theirs. Her vulnerability became her strength. That's the irony of imposter syndrome. The moment you stop trying to hide it, it loses its power. When leaders admit their humanity, they invite connection. When they stop pretending to have all the answers, they make space for trust, creativity, and growth. The same doubt that once silenced her became the doorway to deeper influence. Because people don't follow perfection, they follow authenticity. Months later, after that speech went viral, she said something beautiful. "I realized I don't need to wait for the voice of doubt to disappear. I just need to move forward with it." That's what transformation looks like, not eliminating fear, but learning to lead alongside it. She learned that confidence doesn't mean never doubting yourself. It means acting with purpose even when the doubt shows up. And as she continued to grow, she discovered something even more profound. That imposter syndrome doesn't disappear as you become more successful. It evolves with you. Every new challenge brings a new layer of uncertainty. But what changes is your relationship with it. You stop seeing it as proof that you don't belong and start seeing it as a reminder that you're pushing boundaries, stepping into something bigger, expanding your capacity to lead. Her story isn't unique. It's the quiet reality behind so many leaders, founders, executives, teachers, creators who wake up each day carrying both confidence and doubt in the same breath. And that's the truth most people never see. Leadership isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to keep showing up in spite of it. Overcoming imposter syndrome isn't about silencing the voice of doubt completely, it's about learning how to respond to it differently. The voice may never disappear, but it doesn't have to define your choices or control your confidence. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to build a stronger relationship with it. You learn to listen but not obey, to acknowledge the feeling but still lead with purpose. Every great leader who has transcended imposter syndrome has done it not by denying their self-doubt, but by transforming it into a catalyst for growth. The first and perhaps most powerful step is reframing self-doubt as a sign of progress. When you find yourself questioning whether you belong, pause and realize. This feeling usually shows up right before or during a period of expansion. It's not evidence that you're failing, it's proof that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone. Growth feels uncomfortable because you're operating outside what's familiar. That tension between who you were and who you're becoming is supposed to feel strange. It's the emotional tax of evolution. When you start seeing those moments of discomfort as proof of growth rather than proof of inadequacy, you begin to take back your power. You stop asking, why do I feel this way? And start asking, what is this feeling trying to teach me? That shift alone can change everything. The next step is to consciously acknowledge your achievements, without guilt, without deflection, and without minimizing them. High performers often struggle to internalize success because they're conditioned to focus on what's next instead of what's now. But confidence is built through evidence, and evidence comes from reflection. Start a simple ritual. At the end of each week, write down 3 things you did well. Not massive wins, just moments when your judgment, your leadership, or your effort made a difference. It could be a difficult conversation you handled with grace, a project you pushed through despite resistance, or even a moment you showed restraint when reacting emotionally. Over time, this habit rewires your mind to recognize your own competence. You begin to see a track record of resilience and impact. You realize that your success isn't random. It's built on consistency, not coincidence. It's equally important to seek mentorship and feedback. Imposter syndrome thrives in isolation. When you stay alone in your head, your doubts echo louder. But when you open up to trusted mentors, peers, or even your team, you gain perspective. Often the stories we tell ourselves about our inadequacy aren't accurate. They're just interpretations formed under stress. A mentor can help you see patterns you can't see yourself. They can remind you that what you perceive as weakness is often just growth in disguise. And when you receive constructive feedback, listen with curiosity instead of defensiveness. The goal isn't to protect your ego, but to expand your capacity. Remember, feedback doesn't define your value, it refines your direction. Another powerful step is learning to lead with authenticity instead of performance. Many leaders who experience imposter syndrome fall into the trap of overcompensating, trying to appear more confident, more knowledgeable, or more composed than they feel. But pretending to have it all together creates a disconnect between who you are and how you show up. It's exhausting to maintain an image that isn't fully aligned with your truth. True confidence comes when you drop the mask and lead from a place of honesty. That doesn't mean you expose every insecurity. It means you operate with transparency and integrity. When you admit, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn, you don't lose credibility, you gain it. People trust leaders who are real. They don't expect perfection, they expect presence. Equally important is to separate your role from your identity. Many leaders unconsciously tie their entire sense of worth to their title or their performance. When things go well, they feel valuable. When things go wrong, they feel like failures. But leadership isn't who you are, it's what you do. Your worth doesn't fluctuate with outcomes. The role is temporary. The person behind it is enduring. When you can step back and see that distinction clearly, you free yourself from the pressure of perfection. You begin to lead with clarity rather than fear. You stop measuring your value by external validation and start anchoring it in inner conviction. Practicing self-compassion is another underrated but crucial part of overcoming imposter syndrome. Many high achievers are skilled at showing compassion to others, encouraging their teams, supporting their peers, but rarely extend that same grace to themselves. The way you speak to yourself in moments of doubt determines how quickly you recover from them. If you constantly criticize your mistakes or replay them in your mind, you reinforce insecurity. But if you treat yourself with understanding, acknowledging that everyone, even the most capable leaders, falters, you begin to build emotional resilience. Compassion isn't indulgence, it's strength. It's how you sustain yourself for the long journey of leadership. Another practice that helps is shifting your focus from self to service. When you're trapped in imposter syndrome, your attention is inward. Am I good enough? What will they think of me? What if I fail? But the moment you redirect that energy towards serving others, your fear loses oxygen. When your mission becomes about adding value, empowering your team, or solving a problem that matters, your sense of inadequacy fades into the background. You stop obsessing about how you're perceived and start focusing on the purpose you're pursuing. Service replaces self-consciousness with contribution, and contribution builds confidence. You can also redefine your relationship with failure. One of the hidden causes of imposter syndrome is the belief that mistakes diminish credibility. But in truth, every meaningful success story is built on a foundation of trial and error. The best leaders are not those who never fail, but those who fail fast. Learn deeply and move forward with humility. When you see failure as feedback rather than final judgment, you create psychological safety for yourself and your team. You give yourself permission to grow in public, to evolve visibly. And in doing so, you model a healthier version of leadership for everyone around you. Another essential step is to manage your inner dialogue intentionally. The mind is an extraordinary storyteller. It can convince you of almost anything, including your own inadequacy. The thoughts you entertain daily become the beliefs you live by. When the voice of doubt says, "You're not ready," counter it with evidence. "I may not know everything, but I'm capable of learning." When it says, "You don't belong here," remind yourself, "I'm here because I earned it, because I contribute, because I care." This isn't about empty affirmations. It's about reclaiming your narrative. You train your brain to stop identifying with fear and start identifying with purpose. Lastly, embrace vulnerability as a leadership strength. When you allow yourself to be open, to admit challenges, to ask for help, to share lessons learned, you give others permission to do the same. Vulnerability breaks the illusion of perfection and replaces it with connection. The strongest leaders aren't those who never struggle. They're the ones who turn their struggles into wisdom that others can learn from. The courage to say, "I've been there too," creates belonging in a way that authority never could. These steps aren't quick fixes. They're ongoing practices. Daily habits that strengthen your relationship with yourself and redefine what confidence really means. Overcoming imposter syndrome isn't about becoming fearless. It's about becoming more self-aware, more grounded, and more authentic. It's about learning that doubt doesn't have to disappear for you to lead powerfully. It just has to lose its control over your story. You've walked through seasons of uncertainty, moments of self-doubt, and challenges that tested not just your skill, but your belief in yourself. You faced that quiet, haunting question, "Am I really good enough?" More times than you can count. But look at you. You're still here, still leading, still showing up even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels like you're carrying the weight of expectations that no one else can see. That alone is proof that you are far stronger than the voice in your head that tries to convince you otherwise. You've already done what so many never dare to do. You've kept moving forward through fear. That's not luck, that's courage. Every scar, every stumble, every sleepless night has shaped the leader you are today. You didn't get here by accident. You got here because you were willing to try when others hesitated. You took the meeting when you weren't sure you were ready. You made decisions when the outcomes were uncertain. You took responsibility when things didn't go perfectly. That's not an imposter. That's leadership in its purest form, imperfect, human, and deeply real. The doubts you carry don't make you unworthy. They make you aware. And awareness is the foundation of authentic power. It's time to start seeing yourself through the same lens of grace and respect that you offer to others. You believe in your team, your colleagues, your friends. Now it's time to extend that same belief inward. You can't build confidence by waiting for the doubt to disappear. You build it by acting in spite of it. One decision, one conversation, one brave step at a time. The voice of fear may whisper, but it doesn't get the final word. You do. And every time you lead with purpose, that voice gets quieter, weaker, smaller. You are not defined by the moments when you've questioned yourself. You are defined by the moments when you kept showing up anyway. Real leadership isn't about being flawless. It's about being faithful to your mission, to your values, to the people who look to you for direction and hope. The world doesn't need another perfect leader. It needs leaders who are willing to be honest, compassionate, and bold enough to say, I'm still learning and I'm still here. That's what true strength looks like. So as you move forward, carry this truth with you. Your self-doubt is not your enemy. It's a reminder that you're stepping into something meaningful. The presence of fear doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're growing into a new one. Every time you feel that tension between fear and faith, choose faith. Every time you question your worth, remember that worth isn't something you earn. It's something you already have. And when that inner critic tries to speak louder than your purpose, remind it gently, you've come too far to stop now. The future doesn't belong to the ones who never doubt themselves. It belongs to those who doubt but keep going anyway. Those who turn uncertainty into fuel, mistakes into lessons, and fear into focus. You are one of those leaders. You always have been. You just needed to see yourself clearly enough to believe it.